Aloha and welcome to this experience that involves Simple Schema. Really useful, kind of critical, really, for development with Mongo. And in Meteor, we actually have two packages that we put together. It's called Simple Schema is one of them, and Collection 2 is the other one. And this real short experience is going to show you how that works. So to start, let's create a branch of the repo that we created in the last experience. So if you haven't done the last experience, you got to finish that one first. So we go to GitHub and we'll create, what's it called? Meteor, Simple Schema, right, obviously. We're going to create a branch called Simple Schema. So I'll create this branch. And then I like to publish my branches kind of immediately so that it exists both at not only in my local repo, which is what that first command did, but now it's also, I've created a branch at GitHub at the master repository. And then let's do a Meteor reset and a Meteor run in the console. So let's get rid of all this stuff. So we can say Meteor reset and Meteor run. This is just to kind of guarantee that everything's okay. I don't know if you've been fiddling around with since the last experience, but we want to make sure that everything's okay. And in general, when you're starting off and you're not sure what's going on, it's always nice to do a Meteor reset first, so that you know that you're starting with an empty database and there's nothing left over from the previous session of hacking. So after a couple seconds, we can see we get this not master, okay, slave, okay, false error that I've discussed before. That's a spurious error. It will be fixed in an upcoming Meteor release. In fact, they've already fixed the bug, but it hasn't been pushed out yet. But the good news is that Meteor automatically tries to restart itself when it sees this, and the second time through, it's going to succeed. So we can now go to a browser and bring up localhost 3000, and there we have it, our little app. And we might as well bring up DevTools, go to Meteor, show mini Mongo, and there's our people collection, just like we like. Okay. Now, okay, so to figure out why this is, why we need Simple Schema and collections, is if we add this single line to our people initialization.js. So that's all that really changes. So let's go back and find this file, and we're going to add that line in, and we're going to save it, and that enables us. You can see we're restarted. So now if we go back to here, and you can see that it's already refreshed. I don't need to press refresh because in this case Meteor is already refreshed. But what you can see now is there's another element of our people collection. We've added a dog named Koa, okay, with completely different, well, there's one field in common, the city, but it doesn't have a first, last, or age field, and it does have an animal and a name field. So that's crazy. What are we doing with dogs in a collection that's supposed to be about people? Okay, this is clearly a bug in our code. What we'd like is some way for the system to prevent these kinds of errors from occurring. It's really just exactly like type checking, okay, but it's type checking at kind of the structure of a record level. All right, so here's what we're going to do to fix it. We're going to do something called, we're going to install Collection 2 in Simple Schema. And basically, Simple Schema is a package that enables us to specify constraints on documents. Okay, so if this was a document, we can constrain that structure. Collection 2 is a package that makes it simple for us to add a simple schema to a specific Meteor collection and do the right things when we try to insert or update. Okay, so we need to install both these things, and we can go to the installation instructions and see that what we need to do is we need to do a Meteor add and then a Meteor npm install. And so you go back to the terminal, you got to quit out of Meteor, then you can paste in this Meteor add command, And this is basically extending your application with this, plugin or new package. And then if we go back to here, we've got one more thing. So that added collection 2. Now we have to add this npm package, and we do it in this way. And it's, basically Meteor has this package manager called Atmosphere, and you use this Meteor add to access Atmosphere applications. But Meteor is also able to use any npm package, which this is Node Package Manager. And so there's this slightly different way you do things when you want to add a npm package to Meteor. Okay, now I think ultimately, sometime in the distant future, there will be no more Atmosphere packages. Everything will be via npm. But for now, sometimes you add a Meteor package, sometimes you add an npm package. Don't worry about it, because for this class, I'll always be helping you figure out the syntax of these things. It's kind of silliness. It's not complicated or anything. You just have to kind of follow the instructions. All right, so now we've got these packages that we want. And what we're going to do now is define a schema for our people collection. And that means we're going to replace all the code in the people collection.js file with this code. So we go to people collection.js. We see this. We were just defining a collection. Now we're going to do a little bit more. So the first thing that we're going to do is we gotta make, since we refer to Simple Schema and we refer to Mongo in our file, we have to kind of help JavaScript know where to find these symbols and what they mean and what they're bound to. So we use these import statements to do that. And then we define a local. Notice we're not exporting this. So this is just a local variable called people schema. Nobody else outside this file can access that variable. And that variable is bound to a new instance of Simple Schema. And you can really just read this and know what it means. That's kind of what's nice about a Simple Schema mechanism, is it's kind of obvious, right? What this basically says is that all of the documents that satisfy this schema have to have the following structure. There will be 4 fields: first, last, age, and city. First, last, and city will be strings, and the age has to be an integer. Okay, so that's what that schema is declaring about documents in Mongo. Then we go ahead and we create our people collection instance, and then we use this additional method that's defined by the collection2 package. Now we can call this method on any Meteor, any Mongo.collection object. We can call attach schema, and then we can pass it in a schema. And now what's cool about that is anytime we try to insert or update a document in this collection, we will check to make sure that that document satisfies this constraint, and we'll throw an error if it doesn't happen. Okay, which is super awesome, right? All sorts of problems will be caught, and we can always guarantee that when we're inspecting or like doing a find on the documents in this collection, we now know it's guaranteed that they will all observe this structure. So that's a huge win for us as developers. Okay, so let's test this out. So we're going to go back and do a Meteor reset and a Meteor. Oh, first we have to comment out co of the dog, and then we're going to do a Meteor reset, Meteor run to restart the application. So we'll go back to people initialization, and we'll comment out co of the dog for the moment, and then we will we'll do a Meteor reset, clear out the database, Meteor run to restart the system. And this should take, 10 seconds, maybe 20 seconds, hopefully not much longer. Okay, just about there. Seriously, just about there. There we go. Okay. Okay, so we get this silly error again, but it restarts, and now localhost 3000. Boy, I really hope that they fix that error in the near future. So I'm going to refresh this page, which you have to do when you do a restart of the system. When you quit the system in a Meteor reset and Meteor run, if you have a browser, you have to refresh in order to see the page because you've actually stopped Meteor and restarted. Okay, and what you can see, we're back to only 5 documents, not 6. The last document is, a nice one, and because we've implemented Simple Schema, these all observe the constraints. Okay, but maybe you don't believe me. Maybe you think this is all just hocus pocus. Okay, so to test to make sure that Simple Schema really does what we want it to do, let's just uncomment that line that tried to add co with the dog and save the file. So we got this here. We'll uncomment it, save it out. Let's go see what happens now. It tries to rebuild, and kablooey, it actually tries 3 times before it pauses. I don't know why it thinks 3 times the charm, but it will automatically restart itself 3 times, seeing if it can fix itself. Of course it can't. And so we get this error here, which is that first is required. First is a field in the document. It doesn't exist in co with a dog, and so it throws an error. And very importantly, if you read the stack trace, you will find this line here, which says, okay, the location of this error is in line 10, character 8 of the peopleinitialization.js file. So line 10 of people.js is this line right here. Okay, so the stack trace is actually super important to tell you exactly where in your code the problem occurred. And in fact, if we go to Meteor Mongo practice and refresh, you can see that Meteor is nice enough to actually show you this error in the browser as well. Okay, so all right, so let's fix things, and of course to fix things, we have to say co with the dog. You can't be in a people collection. We need some kind of dog collection for you. So I'll save this out, and we see that now the server has restarted, and there's no errors this time. And then if we refresh, everything's back to normal. Okay, so there you go. Basically, that's all there really is to it. We just I mean, well, let me put it this way. As the structure of your documents gets more complicated, then of course there's a lot more to learn. And if you go to the documentation for Simple Schema, which you will eventually, you're going to find that there's all sorts of stuff to the schema rules. There's a lot of different things you can do here. Default values, whether it's required or optional. What the label should be, the minimum count, just regular expressions. It's crazy. Plus, there's this whole validation thing, and that's important because you don't generally want to have to add a document to the database just to see if it's okay. And the classic situation for this is a form where you get data from the user from a form, and then you'd like to know whether or not what they submitted was valid. So before you actually try to insert it in the database. So there's this whole validation aspect to Simple Schema, which enables you to kind of take a sample object that you've constructed and then run the schema against it to see whether or not it's valid. And if it is valid, then you go ahead and do the insert, and you're confident now that it's going to pass because it passed validation. But if it's not valid, then you want to give an error back to the user, and later on we'll see ways to create nice forms where you use this validation mechanism to pop up a little, red box underneath this specific field to say, hey, you didn't type in the right value for this field. Okay, but that's all in the future. I mean, you gotta crawl before you can walk, and you gotta walk before you can run. Right now, we're kind of in the crawling stage of just going, oh, geez, okay, I get it. Now, the way that I'm going to enforce constraints on the documents in my collection is by using this Simple Schema thing. Now I know how to install it. Now I know how to define it and attach it to my collection, and I've got a clue that if I try to do an insert or an update on a collection, and I'm passing data that violates the schema, I'm going to get an error, and that's a good thing, right? Okay, there you go. Okay, I guess the last thing is, we're supposed to commit our code. So to do that, we can go here and say, something like added schema, commit and sync, and now our branch is now published to GitHub, which is important so that the TA can actually see that you've carried out this exercise. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. See you soon.